The investigation has entered a far more complex phase than anyone anticipated. What once appeared to be a single, shadowed figure approaching a quiet home is now unfolding into something far more layered. Overnight, 3 newly surfaced video clips have forced authorities to reassess the timeline entirely. A faint silhouette moving along a neighboring property line. A lone figure standing motionless at a secured gate just minutes before a security system goes dark. And a silver vehicle accelerating down an otherwise empty road shortly after the house falls silent. Individually, each clip raises concern. Together, they raise something else entirely. Were these simply unrelated moments captured by chance? Or do they reveal a coordinated sequence executed with precision? Could multiple individuals have been operating in synchrony, each assigned a specific role? Investigators are proceeding carefully. No assumptions. No premature conclusions. But the alignment of timestamps, the positioning of cameras, and the controlled movements visible in the footage suggest planning. Deliberate planning. And if that is true, then the central question becomes unavoidable. Was this ever the work of a single intruder, or something far more organized? The neighborhood lay under an unusual stillness that night, the kind that makes even the streetlights seem tense. Shadows shifted across the empty lawns, and the occasional flicker of a security camera cast brief, sharp glints on the concrete. It was in this silence that the first signs of disturbance quietly emerged. Authorities had initially classified it as an isolated anomaly, but as investigators examined the newly surfaced footage, a far more intricate narrative began to take shape. 3 separate recordings, all captured within the span of less than an hour, revealed subtle but unmistakable patterns. A lone figure appeared near a side entrance, moving deliberately, yet with a composure that suggested prior familiarity with the layout. Moments later, another individual lingered at a perimeter point, motionless, as if awaiting a signal or confirming that conditions were right. Not long after, a vehicle was seen accelerating along an otherwise deserted road, accompanied by someone running toward it. The sequence, once pieced together, suggested more than coincidence. It hinted at a calculated, methodical operation. Observers quickly noted the deliberate timing. The figure at the gate remained stationary for several minutes, fully aware of nearby security measures and cameras. The person moving along the property line appeared to know precisely where to avoid detection. Even small gestures, previously overlooked in isolated clips, now appeared intentional, almost choreographed. Each movement, each pause, contributed to an emerging theory that the events were coordinated. Investigators began to dissect every detail. Height, build, and movement patterns were measured meticulously, compared across all footage. A small, distinctive item, barely visible, was noted in one clip, something that might connect the person to local networks or prior knowledge of the area. These minutiae, insignificant on their own, now carried profound implications for understanding the operation's sophistication. The quiet intensity of the night contrasted sharply with the rapid unfolding of events. Security systems had been manipulated with precision. Cameras were circumvented in ways suggesting intimate knowledge of the property. Even the moments when lights flickered or sensors triggered appeared to align perfectly with the movements captured on tape. It was as if every element of the environment had been anticipated and accounted for. But with each discovery came more questions. Were there multiple actors coordinating in real time? Was the observed vehicle part of an escape plan or merely a decoy? The possibility of synchronized roles, one overseeing surveillance, another managing perimeter control, another facilitating extraction, loomed over the investigation. Experts in operational planning and forensic analysis were called in to examine the footage frame by frame, piecing together sequences that, when viewed in isolation, might have seemed trivial, but together suggested deliberate orchestration. Physical traces further complicated the picture. Minor disturbances in the environment, subtle scuffs, displaced objects, and traces of evidence hinted at interactions that were fleeting yet telling. Digital forensics added another layer. Timestamps, metadata, and signal logs revealed small but crucial inconsistencies, reinforcing the notion that this was no random act. Every element began converging into a pattern that suggested preparation, timing, and an understanding of procedural constraints. As investigators continued their meticulous reconstruction, a broader narrative began to emerge. The scene was no longer a series of isolated incidents. It was a calculated sequence of events executed with precision. The challenge lay in linking each component, movements, observations, vehicle activity, and physical evidence, into a coherent timeline that could reveal the underlying strategy. Every second counted, every detail mattered, and the margin for error was infinitesimal. The night had passed, but the sense of urgency remained. Those reviewing the footage knew that understanding the coordination, the timing, and the roles of potential actors was essential. Each minute spent analyzing, cross-referencing, and questioning could bring investigators closer to uncovering the sequence of events and closer to anticipating what might come next. The morning light brought little clarity. While the streets appeared calm, the investigators' screens told a different story. Frame by frame, the newly surfaced clips were scrutinized. The first piece of evidence, captured from a side property camera, showed a figure moving with purpose, pausing only briefly to glance toward the main entrance. Every step was deliberate, almost rehearsed. Analysts noted subtle cues, shifts in posture, the timing of glances that suggested prior knowledge of the environment. Could this person have been surveying the location for weeks? Or was this familiarity developed in the hours leading up to the incident? The second clip, focused on the perimeter gate, presented an even more perplexing scenario. A single individual stood almost unnervingly still for several minutes. Observers debated the role. Was this person acting as a lookout, waiting for a signal, or simply assessing the surrounding area? The position, directly in line with multiple sight lines, indicated intentional placement. Experts began reconstructing the angles and trajectories, calculating how each movement might have been coordinated with the figure seen earlier. Every second the gate remained unmoving seemed pregnant with significance. The third piece of footage, recorded several blocks away, depicted a vehicle in motion, departing shortly after the gate figure was first observed. Its timing suggested more than a coincidence. The vehicle appeared ready to facilitate extraction. A lone individual ran toward it, the pace deliberate, matching an unseen schedule. Analysts considered multiple scenarios: a pre-planned escape, a decoy maneuver, or a synchronized extraction. Differences in attire between this figure and those previously observed strengthened the theory that distinct roles had been assigned, one managing surveillance, another controlling perimeter, another handling transit. The convergence of these three elements painted a picture of operational sophistication. Surveillance, perimeter control, and extraction appeared not as isolated activities, but as a continuous chain, each step dependent on the other. Investigators began mapping the sequence in exact time intervals, cross-referencing digital timestamps, movement patterns, and environmental cues. Small anomalies, shadows, brief pauses, minor adjustments in direction were now interpreted as intentional actions rather than randomness. Forensic experts contributed crucial insights. Tiny traces left in each area, seemingly insignificant at first glance, suggested brief contact and careful maneuvering. Digital logs provided additional context. Signals from nearby devices showed interruptions that aligned almost perfectly with the movements captured on camera. Every detail reinforced the notion that this was not an impromptu act, but a deliberate, rehearsed operation, executed with awareness of surveillance and procedural constraints. As analysis deepened, the theory of multiple actors coordinating in real time solidified. The figures in each clip seemed to anticipate one another, moving in a carefully orchestrated pattern. Investigators began speculating on possible methods of communication: silent signals, prearranged timing, or technology-assisted coordination. The layers of planning and precision suggested a level of sophistication far beyond simple observation. By the end of the day, the reconstructed timeline offered a chilling realization. The incident had been far from spontaneous. Each movement, each pause, each calculated interaction contributed to an overarching strategy. Investigators now face the critical task of connecting these sequences into a cohesive narrative, one that could reveal the scope, roles, and ultimate intention behind the operation. Every detail mattered, and overlooking a single fragment could obscure the broader picture entirely. As night approached again, investigators shifted focus to the physical and digital traces that could finally illuminate the sequence of events. Subtle disturbances in the environment, scuffed surfaces, displaced objects, and faint, overlooked marks offered the first tangible clues. Each fragment of evidence was meticulously cataloged, analyzed, and cross-referenced with the previously examined footage. Small details that seemed insignificant in isolation now began to reveal a pattern, hinting at the calculated precision of the operation. Digital forensics added another layer of complexity. Metadata from camera footage, timestamps from connected devices, and minor signal disruptions were carefully examined. Analysts noted correlations between environmental movements and interruptions in digital logs, suggesting a high degree of situational awareness by the actors. Even subtle gaps or anomalies in surveillance coverage appeared less accidental and more intentional, as if every step of the night had been planned to exploit known weaknesses. Authorities involved in the investigation recognized the escalating sophistication. Multiple agencies, working in tandem, began deploying specialized analytical tools, geospatial mapping, trajectory reconstruction, and forensic behavioral modeling. Every piece of evidence was scrutinized: the route of the moving vehicle, the timing of each pause, and even the calculated distance between points of observation. Experts emphasized that understanding these elements was critical, as the operation appeared to involve multiple actors fulfilling distinct roles. Urgency intensified as investigators considered the implications. If coordination had been this meticulous, there might be other, unseen actions yet to be uncovered. The possibility of additional locations, backup plans, or secondary movements added pressure to consolidate all evidence quickly. Analysts raced to reconcile inconsistencies, evaluate timelines, and anticipate next steps, knowing that any lapse could allow crucial leads to go cold. Even as experts pieced together the sequences, unanswered questions loomed. How were the actors able to remain undetected for so long? What tools or methods had been employed to manipulate the environment and circumvent observation? Each detail, the precise timing, the coordination between figures, the vehicle's synchronized departure, pointed to a level of planning that challenged previous assumptions about the operation's complexity. The investigation now moved into a critical phase. Cross-referencing physical evidence with digital data became paramount. Analysts traced every signal, mapped every movement, and evaluated every interaction, all while maintaining a clear chain of evidence. The pressure to connect each fragment intensified as investigators sought to understand the full scope of the operation, the number of participants, and the roles each played. Every new insight raised further questions, driving the investigation deeper into the intricacies of planning, execution, and coordination. The night's shadows had revealed a pattern, yet full clarity remained just out of reach. The clock was ticking, and the investigators knew that time could be the difference between piecing together the operation and leaving critical gaps in the understanding of the events. As the day ended, the central question remained unresolved, hanging over every analysis, every forensic detail, and every reconstructed timeline. Could the investigators definitively link the dispersed pieces of evidence, uncover the coordinated strategy, and reveal the full extent of the operation before critical leads faded into obscurity? The tension persisted, and the hunt for answers continued. Each fragment of evidence now a vital step toward exposing the carefully orchestrated plan that had unfolded under the cover of night. The investigation is far from over. Each fragment of evidence, each captured movement, and every subtle trace uncovered brings the puzzle closer to clarity, but questions remain. Was this sequence truly the work of a single individual, or does it point to a coordinated operation with multiple actors, each fulfilling a specific role? Only continued analysis, vigilance, and critical observation will reveal the answers. We want to hear from you. Every theory, every insight, Every observation you share in the comments could help piece together the timeline, uncover connections, and highlight details that might otherwise be overlooked. Your perspective matters because sometimes a fresh eye can see patterns even the most experienced investigators might miss. Subscribe to stay updated as this investigation unfolds. New footage, expert analysis, and reconstructed timelines will be shared as soon as they become available. By joining this community, you become part of a careful, methodical pursuit of truth, a witness to the reconstruction of events and the unraveling of a complex plan. And remember, the clock is always ticking. Each new detail, however small, could be critical in understanding the full extent of the operation. The investigation continues to evolve, and what may seem like a minor clue today could unlock the next step tomorrow. So as you watch, think critically. Consider each angle, each movement, and each subtle detail. Discuss, debate, and share your observations. Because in this search for answers, every perspective brings us one step closer to uncovering the full story. The question remains, can the evidence, when fully pieced together, reveal the true extent of the operation and expose those responsible before critical leads fade into obscurity? The answer may lie hidden in the fragments, but the search for clarity continues, and you are now part of that pursuit.